So welcome to this video, and this is the real weekly update video. So let's get started. And we do have some to talk about, maybe not as much as yesterday, though we do have something very interesting coming up into play. So now the ANC has upgraded tropical depression 12E to Tropical Storm Lowell, and there really hasn't been much change in the general forecast philosophy. Models have came into very good agreement that the system will continue on its expected course and turn west out to sea, but the moisture in the system is expected to move into the southwestern United States because we have an upper level low. There's now decent agreement within both the JFS and the European that such a scenario is at least somewhat legit. Thus, I think it's a pretty good likelihood of it verifying at this point. And the main threats are obviously going to be flash floods, and though there could be some higher than normal swells too, well for the beachgoers in Southern California. But that's probably not the big story. We also have Tropical Storm Karina and a fading Invest 94C that has a near 0% chance of developing right now. Anyway, back to Karina. It's pretty much held its own. And recently today it started to intensify a bit and is now at 55 knots. So 10 knots below hurricane strength. And the ANC forecasts to do it, and the models seem in decent agreement now. The system will at least briefly become a hurricane, and then we'll see how fast it weakens going forward, but it's not too much of a land threat. It's not going to be that interesting. Anyway, now the big story is this area of disturbed water the ANC has highlighted in their tropical water outlook today. The ANC has given us a near 0% chance of developing in the next 2 days due to its proximity to land. I've talked about this in my last couple of videos about this big system off the west coast of Mexico. Well, that has become even more aggressive. Models are significantly more aggressive today than they were yesterday. Now is near anonymous agreement that the system will indeed develop and become quite powerful. Though I still know that there's some uncertainty. They've shown that in years past. There's particularly two scenarios. One, a couple that I've explained on other forums and such, but I will point them out now. It's what later became Tropical Storm Rosa in 2012, and what later became Tropical Storm Eva last season. Both were originally forecast to be by the JFS computer models to be very intense. However, the model support then is not as large as it is now, so I'd be surprised if the system does not become at least somewhat strong. There's nothing stopping. The ANC is extremely aggressive in their tropical weather outlook at developing this within the next 5 days, and they know that the system will likely develop further, and thus give it a 70% chance of it developing by the end of this week. And I think that sounds pretty fair. So I'd maybe bump the 48-hour one to 10%, since the system is already starting to show some few signs of organization. Some very early signs of organization. We really gotta wait and see how this organizes before we get too keen on development. Though seeing aggressive models is better than not seeing aggressive models. And hopefully this will be invested shortly so that we have the full res HWRF and JFDL available to me, as well as the ships and LGM wind shear forecasts and intensity forecasts. The track, something I will get to in a sec. Now that also looks pretty interesting. Models have slowly but surely trended eastward, but and there's causing some big fears and panic across the interwebs that this system could be a potentially dangerous hurricane to develop the California Peninsula. However, I will say that is unlikely. Despite the slight eastward trends that though in the past JFS and Euro runs, the Euro is still showing we have a JFS Euro disagreement. Here's what the JFS is showing. In about 10 days. A big ridge with an upper level low off the west coast of California. The NAM, the North American mesoscale model, seems to be hinting at the same overall setup persisting within the next 2 days. So the NAM is on board with the JFS in this case. But the European is showing this very strong ridging that will be curved, that will send any storm, even approaching the peninsula, out to sea. We'll see which one verifies. I mean, even the upper level low is a cutoff low and it's very weak. I don't think it'll recurve the system that much, but it could lead to additional parallel approach track. Even the JFS is keeping this as pretty much a parallel to the coast track and eventually having it run into the California coast in the long range after junction. But furthermore, I think we'll get a better idea on the track in a few days. We don't have that much long range skill when it comes to track. I think I'd even argue we have a little bit more skill when it comes to intensity, or almost as much skill in the long range when it comes to intensity in track. Intensity in track. So we'll wait and see. You know, obviously I'll do another update probably tomorrow or Wednesday. This is a pretty interesting scenario. And behind that, we have another complex scenario that I will go into, and that has to do with the Atlantic. The models have been off and on developing stuff following the passage of this powerful hurricane. And it really depends on the propagation of two tropical waves and how they interact. That could determine whether 0, 1, or 2 systems form, as well as the propagation of the MGO, whether it actually retrogrades or not. So right now, I think one of two things is happening. Either A, MGO is retrograding, or B, MGO is just chilling out in the Indian Ocean and about to come back into the Pacific. Right now, I think it's the former, though it's been the we'll see. And MGO is something very complicated, so we don't know. And then, I will like to know that there's still a decent chance that we could see more activity since the models are not, because of the system in the Atlantic, if it actually develops, we'll have to lose convection. Some of that convection could still make its way across the East Pacific. Now, looking ahead to next month, as I think I said this in my previous video, if I didn't, oh well, but the CFS runs have been indicating, for the most part, a pretty quiet EPAC in September, though they've gotten a little bit more aggressive today, so we'll wait to see if that trend continues. Anyhow, that'll do it for this video. Bye.